The double-minded that Paul was, or that James was talking about, was not necessarily the day-to-day struggles we have to make the right choice, because we all will have that forever. Get used to it. Okay? The double-minded he's talking about is that guy who sits on the fence and wants to walk in the flesh and wants to walk in the spirit. He hadn't yet made the choice. And in that thing over in James, it wasn't the fact that God was not prepared to deliver. God had already delivered. God had already provided the answer. If we look and we are diligent enough to seek God and hear, guess what we're going to find? We're going to find the answer. I don't care what problem you have in your life. I don't care what needs you have. I could tell you a story, and I will be brief at the story because it in and of itself is a very long one. But my dad, when he was a young believer and he hadn't known the Lord all that long, he was sitting in a hotel room or a motel room in Sanford, I believe it was, and he saw a vision of a man praying. And as he had this vision, there was this guy who was sick, nigh unto death, in his spleen, wherever that is, over here I think. Somewhere. In this general vicinity,
somewhere in your abdomen,
was swollen. He was terribly jaundiced. I mean, this guy was very near death. And he was praying, reading his Bible, and he had been reading scriptures about healing. He said, Lord, if you send me someone that believes this word and heal me, I will serve you the rest of my life. And my dad is seeing this vision as he's praying, and the Lord tells him, go to Maryland. What do you mean go to Maryland? I said, you have to pray for this guy. Go to Maryland. Florida. He's in Florida. Doesn't know this guy from anybody. Long story short, he goes up and said, well, I'll see my cousin. He just got married. Meets Robin. Y'all will eventually meet Robin. Happens to be Steve's sister. That's a whole other story. How Steve came around. Anyway, he meets Robin. Robin introduced him to somebody else, and they both say, oh, we have a friend of ours that's a little sick. They walk in, and there's the man that my dad saw in his vision. This man had been seeking God and seeking a solution, desperately. Are we not all at some place in our life right now? Look at the economy. Look at our households. Look at our marriages. I mean, not only our own, because we all have our own struggles, right? But look at the state of this country. Look at the state of this world. Look at where we are. We are in dire, dire straits. This man was in dire, dire straits, and when he sought the Lord, guess what happened? The Lord showed up. Okay? We know that the Lord is able, and we know that he says, if any of you lack wisdom, let him ask of God, who giveth to some,
all,
who giveth to all men liberally, and upbraideth not. He doesn't withhold. Okay? The warning is, if you don't ask in faith, believing, how many times do we go to the Lord asking for something with no faith? All right? How many times do we go asking purely out of habit, or out of ritual, or out of some sort of vain discussion? Remember, Jesus says, don't pray in vain. Right? Pray believing. Right? So there is some of that we need to pray believing. But God gives it. The issue is us receiving it. If we are double-minded, walking in the flesh, and trying, saying we want to walk in the Spirit, but yet walking in the flesh, what's going to happen is the answer we get, we ain't going to like it. That's where we don't receive, we don't accept, we don't agree with his answer, we look for another one. You see what I'm saying? The solution to your problems, I don't care what they are right here. You need healing, it's right here. You need deliverance, right here. You need your bills paid, it's right here. You need to get out of debt, it's right here. You need freedom, it's right here. You need a healthy marriage, it's right here. You need obedient children, it's right here. If you need it, it's right here. How bad do you want it? That's where the double-mindedness comes in. Okay? Because if you're expecting to receive from God and it be the advice you want to hear, let me tell you something. You ain't going to like it. Because it's going to put the responsibility of your problems square in your lap. You have made you. You have made your problems. You have made your condition. You have made your circumstance. You are the one at fault, not God. He has made a way out. He has made a way of deliverance. He has made a way of salvation. But you are where you are because of you. Not because of him. That is not something we tend to want to receive, is it?
I'm looking for my black marker right now.
Yeah, I'm looking for it too, Lisa. I'm right there with you. You know, I was talking to somebody today and I was telling them at the beginning of this year I was this close to bankruptcy. And people say, what? You? Are you crazy? Yeah, me. I was crazy. And yes, I was close to bankruptcy. You cannot have $60,000 in credit card debt and not be close to bankruptcy. Okay? You cannot have made some pretty bad business decisions against your gut instinct and expect to there's this one thing, God, I ask for an answer, he gives me an answer, I don't like it, don't do what he says, what happens?
Trouble.
Trouble. Whose fault is it? My fault. It wasn't God's fault, he told me what to do. I didn't like it, I did not receive his wisdom. Okay, I was double-minded and I wanted to do my thing and sort of hope it worked out. And guess what? It didn't work out. You know, God, when I made the right choice and I submitted to the Lord, you know what? I paid for my mistakes. But the Lord's deliverance was right there because his answer is right here. If you submit to this, guess what's going to happen? You're going to live.
Right.
Trust in the Lord and do good, and so shalt thou dwell in the land, and verily thou shalt be fed. You want to live. You want to be able to feed your family and have a roof over your head, right?
Mm-hmm.
Trust in the Lord and do good. All right? I want to get to this part in Romans because that double-mindedness you're talking about, Brad, that sort of uneasy doubtness, okay, it's not your core. That's your flesh. That part of us that's that sort of that we struggle with every day. Look, let me tell you, you're in great company. Mm-hmm. You're in pristine company. This is Paul the Apostle. Any doubt Paul was the greatest apostle that there was? Anybody want to dispute that? He wrote 3/4 of the New Testament. He knew more about Jesus having never met him in physical person than any of the disciples that walked with Jesus 3.5 years.
That's right.
All right? But yet he was the most influential of the apostles. Now, at his time, his contemporaries didn't think much of Paul. But what did Jesus say? The last shall be first and the first shall be last? That's the way God is. Okay? Because it couldn't be about Paul, it had to be about Jesus. And here's Paul, and he's saying, verse 15, for that which I do, I allow not. For what I would, that do I not. But what I hate, that I do. Have you ever been in that situation where you just don't know why you're doing it? And you hate the fact you're doing it. Anybody that's an addict probably has had that thought. I don't care if it's booze, I don't care if it's porn, I don't care if it's drugs, I don't care what it is. You have that in yourself where you hate yourself for even doing what you're doing. Guess what? Ain't nothing new under the sun. You're not unique. You're not special. Other people have had that problem. Paul, the apostle, had that problem. For him it was covetousness or lust. Interchange it however you want. Call Paul a dirty old man if you want. Guess what he was? In his flesh, a dirty old man. That was Paul, the greatest apostle. And here he is saying, for that which I do, I allow not. For what I would, that do I not. But what I hate, that I do. If then I do that which I would not, I consent unto the law that it is good. The law has shown me what to do. I can't seem to do it. Therefore, the law is righteous and I am not.
Right.
You know that scripture that says, for all have sinned and come short of the glory of God.
Right.
Everybody needs Jesus. There's none righteous. I talked to a guy today and he said, we were talking a little bit about the Masons. And he said, you know, the Masons about making a good man a better man. I said, well, you're flawed at your core. There are no good men. You cannot take that which is corrupt and make it incorrupt. That's God's job. He said, you know, you got a point. Said, now you can teach morals and you can do a lot of things and you can do it, but see the whole thing, if it's about you being better, where's God? You just created a whole other righteousness that leaves Jesus out of the equation. That's called religion. That's called self-righteousness. That's called the law. You can't do it. And as much as they aspire to this high moral standard, none of them make it. It should tell them in their very rules they can't do it. Can't be done.